All right, you ready, rookie?
As can be.
As can.
God, act like you're excited to be here.
For what I don't know, you have prepared for this.
You're either on the bus or you're off the bus.
Welcome aboard episode 37 of Ridin the Bus. The official Iowa Wild podcast is rolling. Ben Gislason, Joey Goldstein, and in not too long, actually this will be a real short intro, so we're going to get to Ryan O'Rourke very fast. Ryan O'Rourke is our guest this week, and a good chat with Ryan, some fun stories. You and I got to share some fun stories too. We don't always get to step into the pulpit, so to speak, and share some stories, but we got to do that a little bit in this, and it was more of a back and forth as opposed to just putting Ryan on the hot seat for a half hour. But looking forward to welcoming Ryan in. He's been on briefly. We had him on the exit day interviews, but this is a longer form chat with Ryan. But in the meantime, you're back.
Yeah. We also got you don't bury the lead. We got a little bonus interview too.
Yeah, that's well done. Yeah, you're correct. It's an OHL heavy podcast today in not only the former Sioux Greyhound and Ryan O'Rourke, but the former Saginaw Spirit and Memorial Cup champion Hunter Haight. He and I caught up one-on-one up at the development camp in Minnesota. So we'll have that coming for you as well after the O'Rourke interview. But you and I back.
Yeah, now I'm back.
Back in concert here. Did fine remotely.
Yeah.
It was nice having you in the outdoors. It was nice having Rooney make the cameo on the show.
I was sweating. So it got so hot as we were recording. Like the temperature spiked from I went outside to record and it was probably like in the 70s. By the time I finished, it was like low 90s. I was like in the Belichick cutoff like short sleeve sweatshirt, and it was hot.
Yeah, I didn't know it got that hot in Boston.
Yeah, it was warm.
Yeah, it was warm.
It was warm.
Nice this week here in Des Moines. It's been been beautiful temperatures. Yeah. I can't really go outside when it gets above 80 degrees. It's very I can't do it. So nice to have the weather turning here in Des Moines, and nice to have you back. Good to be back in studio, so to speak, and sort of back the Zmolik family.
Yeah.
Not Reese, who Wild fans were familiar with past couple of seasons.
He's
but
busy just winning championships in the ECHL right now.
No kidding.
Racking up Kelly Cups.
Exactly. But his brother Will signing a two-way deal, AHL and ECHL. He'll be someone that could be in the fold for the Iowa Wild. And really, as my memory serves me, if he's anything like how his brother Reese was when the Iowa Wild needed Reese Smolik, he had some great games in that, call it a 7th defenseman role, 8th defenseman role, 1-2 defenseman role when Reese was playing with the Heartlanders.
Kind of that bulldog mentality, right?
I liked his game a lot, and I'm not surprised to see that he has been a big part of some championship teams at the ECHL level. So Will signing out of Bemidji State, and we'll see what Will can bring if he gets some opportunities here with Iowa this year.
Yeah, a little bit of about a year's worth of experience in the pro game. Played a couple games in the AHL with Lehigh Valley right after he graduated, but also this past year. Not a huge offensive threat, more of a defensive guy, but still has put up some okay numbers. Played in 50 games with the Reading Royals as well in the ECHL, so he's been around the pro game a bit. Somebody who's going to provide some good depth for us and just continuing to round out the roster. It feels like we're getting close.
And good stock in his father, Doug, a longtime NHL player, San Jose Sharks once upon a time, organization I know that is close to your heart, where you really got your pro debut.
Yeah.
Granted, it was on the East Coast. Still one of the things that it's amazing to me it took so long for the AHL to regionalize.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago when the San Jose Sharks' primary affiliate was in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Or when the Kings were in Manchester.
Yeah, it's when Minnesota was in Houston.
Yeah, it's
almost like
crazy.
Some of these teams picked as far as you could possibly be from their home base. So makes sense. Certainly the Des Moines and the Iowa Wild have benefited from that goal of moving teams closer to the NHL clubs. But it'll be good to see Will. He'll be a part of training camp as well as some other two-way signings. And that's pretty much it for our intro. Short and sweet today.
Love it.
Should we get to Ryan?
Let's send it to him.
Let's get to the rugged defenseman, one of my faves, Ryan O'Rourke. Episode 37 continues, period number 2. Goldstein, Gisleson, and the man of the hour. One of my favorite styles of defenseman. I know we've talked about it a lot. We talked about it last week with Mikey Milne. Like to live life on the edge. Yep. And Ryan O'Rourke certainly does that when he's got his skates on, and he's joining us now here for this episode. Ryan, thanks for spending some time with us here this afternoon. How are things, my friend?
Going good. Trying to enjoy my summer as best I can. Getting up to the cottage, getting out to golf, and kind of try to enjoy some downtime before the season kicks off again.
What's the best thing you've done at the cottage so far this summer?
Nothing crazy yet. Not a lot of fishing. Maybe just some kayaking around, watching the dog swim.
Speaking of the dog, what's
dogs,
the dog? Yeah,
plural.
dogs. That's right. Dogs,
Dogs.
plural. Dogs, plural. Any great stories, any great shenanigans they've gotten into, or any big cleanups from diving in the lake or anything like that throughout the course of the summer for you?
There's been a lot of action for them that way, whether it be the pool or at the cottage. There's a lot of jumping, there's a lot of swimming, and a lot of chasing around. So they enjoy it a little more than we do, and it keeps them busy, which is great.
You got 2 dogs. Walk us through real quick. What kind of breeds you have, and what are their names, and how did they get their names?
So Remy is the older one. She's 2.5. She's a Portuguese water dog, and I don't really know how we came to her name. We kind of just had a big list. Kept going through the list, ticking names off. We finally landed on Remy, which I think suits her perfectly. Our younger one, Nyla, is also a Portuguese water dog. She's just over 1, and I actually chose her name. Again, sort of just a short list. Going through the names, and then I came out with that one, kind of out of the blue, and we just stuck with it. We actually named her after we brought her home, because we were kind of diced up on a few names.
What were the other ones in the running that didn't make the cut?
Oh God. I don't even remember at this point, but none of them would have been close to what she is now. I mean, all the nicknames we have for her, everything like that, it just kind of fits her perfectly too.
Let's get this bus rolling with a bus story, Ryan. You've been on plenty of them. The trips probably got a little bit longer when you got to Iowa than when you were with the Sioux Greyhounds in the OHL. But let's get fans saddled up next to you on the double-decker bus, courtesy of Windstar Lines, which I just got booked today, which was
Nice.
great. Got that taken care of. A busy week of travel planning. Ryan, talk us through a bus story, a fun moment. I'm sure you've had plenty of them. I've witnessed probably a few of them that might be in your mind right now. But what do you got cooking as I say great bus story?
I think like a basic one really is it's better if you're at the front of the bus because you kind of don't really have too much know of what's going on. But some of those road trips where it's a good weekend or we're kind of going well and things are good, the back of the bus just gets super rowdy and super just loud. There's some words exchanged and there's a lot of commotion a lot of the time. But I think just being up there and not truly knowing what's being said or what's going on, but just hearing about 6, 7, 8 voices just going at each other. It always makes for a good time. And then the front and the back kind of get jawing at each other. So it's a good scenario or a good atmosphere to be in.
One bus story that I was regaling at development camp, Ryan, and you were a part of this one. Luckily, you didn't have to be a part of the young crew that was scurrying off the bus to move parking cones. But if you remember at O'Hare International Airport this year, we got stuck at O'Hare flying in from somewhere to go and play Rockford. And because we had this double-decker bus, it's taller than most buses. And where the O'Hare International security people were telling us to leave, we were too tall to go under the underpass. And they kept telling us, take this exit and it'll take you right out. And all it did was take us in a circle. We had like the O'Hare 500 going. We took 3 to 4 laps over the course of 45 minutes, right?
3 laps. I think it was 3 total laps.
And it was late. There was a game the next day, so you're trying to get to Rockford. And then eventually we got to a point where guys got off the bus to move cones that we thought was going to lead us to the proper exit after talking to our third security person. And we realized that those cones led to nowhere. It was just like an extra lane on the same road that we were on.
Jeez.
It was a merge lane.
That was the third lap. And then I honestly think we might have ended up going down a one-way to get out of there. I'm not quite sure. Do you remember how we got out of there? It all blurs together in my crazy mind.
When guys were moving cones, I remember there was like an airport police car that pulled up with his lights on, and I was just thinking, oh, this should be great. And I think everybody kind of hopped back in the bus, and he took us down. There's when you come in, there's almost like a toll booth or a gateway to get in to the parking lots. And he just took us opposite way down the ramp. And then we just cut across the road at the sort of toll booth gateway thing and just back out on the right way.
That's right.
So it really was an easy fix, but I did think we needed an escort from the beginning, probably.
Yes. And we have a similar story this year where we're flying into O'Hare from Texas to go play Chicago early in October. So we'll have to make sure we have I and Jeff, our bus driver, will have to make sure that we have our ducks in a row.
Well, you've done it once,
not do that
you guys
again.
are going to be fine now.
Oh, my gosh. That's why I was thinking about it. Okay, the bus is rolling. That's a good bus story, a couple of them. One of the guys, Ryan, that you have really built a great relationship with, one, because defensemen and goalies usually have great relationships because you are the last line of defense before the puck comes on the net, but also just because you lived in the same apartment complex for a stretch. You really have came into pro hockey for the most part together. Jesper Wallstedt, you know him better than most. What don't people who don't get to spend as much time with Jesper as you do know about him? What should people know about him that maybe just because they haven't been able to be around him like you have, they wouldn't know?
He's funny and quirky, and he just likes to, have a good time, whether it be coming over for dinner or playing golf together, anything like that. He really just likes to have a good time, not worry about too much, just let loose, relax, and enjoy himself. And I think a lot of his job is a lot of stress and a lot of thinking, and a lot mentally. So I think for him to be able to kind of kick back and just reset, away for the rink for him is probably pretty big.
You guys go at each other a lot verbally. You go at a lot of people verbally because you love that part of, one, playing the game, two, being in the locker room. You thrive in that environment. He does as well. What are some of the classic things or the typical go-to lines that he has when he's coming after you?
Oh, gosh.
And vice versa. What do you got for him in the holster?
I mean, obviously the nicknames. I think you can go from there, but just anything. Chirping his 5-hole, chirping his glove, this, that. I mean, you can kind of say whatever you want, really, and it's game on at that point. Honestly, I don't know what he comes after me for, honestly. Normally small stuff or just stuff he makes up after I come after him. So he's a really on the spot type of guy.
The nickname Brian O'Brien, which is just one of my favorite nicknames around. Obviously, Ryan O'Rourke, Brian O'Brien, that's partially the namesake behind it. But what's the etymology behind that nickname?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make things worse. It doesn't make things better. It kind of just, it's there. It exists. And for him, I think it gets a good laugh for him. So, he can have that one.
When you're going up against people you don't know and love as well, opponents, at least in what I've been told, great chirps, great lines. Oftentimes they don't have any kind of slang or bad language. They're witty, they're short, and they're clever. It maybe doesn't need to have an F-bomb in it. In fact, oftentimes the best lines don't have any kind of swearing in them, even though there's a lot of swearing that obviously happens on the ice in a hockey game. Can you think back to any great lines you've had or any lines where guys have said to you and you went, oh, man, I got no response for that?
Probably the COVID year. I don't remember exactly what was said, but there was probably once or twice that somebody kind of said something to me and I had to think about it for a second and was probably like, yeah, like maybe not again, or yeah, maybe I'll keep an eye over my shoulder. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the time it's kind of, the direct stuff or kind of the, just straight to the point and clever and nifty. But um, it's a mental game. It's a mental warfare sometimes out there. So you got to get creative.
You like to play with a bit of an edge, we could say, a little bit of nastiness. Where does that come from? Because off the ice, that's just not your demeanor at all. So where does all that come from?
I think it's kind of that, on ice, off ice personality. Once the skates go on, once the gloves go on, it's, kind of a totally different mindset or a totally different perception. And it kind of just, comes naturally, I guess. There's nothing really added to it.
And then off the ice, you're a huge advocate for our organization out in the community. Someone who Ben can always rely on, I can always rely on if we need somebody to go out and do things. Like, that's something that I don't think a lot of hockey players are willing to do that kind of stuff, but there are some guys who are willing more than others. Mm-hmm. Is that something that was instilled in you as a kid to give back? Is that something you learned through juniors? Like, where does that need, or not really need, but that ability to give back, where does all that stem from?
I would say it probably really started, I would say, in junior, doing a lot of public appearances that way, going to schools, floor hockey, all that stuff, um, Christmas events, all that stuff. You just meet a lot of people. You meet a lot of fans. You meet a lot of people that maybe aren't fans that become fans after interacting with you. So I think it's a good thing to kind of just meet people, show that, we're involved with the community sort of thing as a team or as an organization, and, try to make friends or try to make fans for the team.
And you're coming in on technically it's your 4th year pro, but what would you say of all the things we've had you do so far? What's been your favorite community piece since being a member of the Iowa Wild?
Honestly, the Dave and Buster's was pretty fun. The hospital visits are very cool too, because you meet a lot of people not even necessarily from Des Moines or from Iowa. You learn a lot about people that way. And again, you kind of meet fans or you make new fans. So, whether it's floorball or hospital visit, it's, you're in for something unknown.
Joey brings up technically your 4th year pro, Ryan, and this league is meant to grow games, but also meant to grow humans. Who's Ryan O'Rourke now that Ryan O'Rourke wasn't when you were coming in as a clean-shaven, was it 17 years old when you were playing your first year in the American League during the year that the OHL didn't play?
I would have been 18.
Just 18.
I believe.
Big difference in 17
I would have been
18.
Yeah. I would have been 18. Definitely this clean shaven part.
You and me both.
And probably a little bit, yeah. We were both rookies.
We were.
A little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and definitely a way different perception, kind of how things were 3 years ago or so. And how things kind of are going forward now.
I saw a story. So you played and you won gold at World Juniors. Your team was loaded. You had Bedard, McTavish, Logan Stankoven, Sebastian Kosa. Like, it was a good team. But I saw that when you got the call to play on that team, you declined it initially. Is that true?
No.
No?
Good journalism. All right.
Damn. Thought I had that one.
Yeah, the guy who turns down the chance to play for Canada.
No, it was like a number he didn't recognize. He just
ignored
it.
I see.
So
declined is like, I'm not taking it.
Okay, this makes more sense now.
There is truth to this.
Yeah, so keep it in. It stays in. It stays in.
No, there is truth to this. It wasn't, I didn't say no to the tournament, but right. Yes, I did. So It would have been probably maybe early October, mid-October, and I got a call from, I believe the assistant coach was from Everett, Washington. And so the number popped up, and I'm like, I don't know who this is. So I didn't answer. Voicemail comes, and as soon as I picked up the voicemail and listened, he said his first name, and I was like, oh crap. So hung up on the voicemail, called him back right away, told him that, oh, sorry, I didn't recognize your number, blah, 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 this, that. Um, he thought it was funny too, but that was kind of the thing was I wasn't really expecting it. I wasn't, informed of anything. So when I saw the phone call, I was just like, all right, I don't need to answer.
Makes a lot more sense
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, you guys are ready to bury me
But-
for that
Oh,
one.
I was right under the bus.
Yeah.
Just
Right under the bus.
maybe the wording was
Yeah, I could have phrased it a little
Lost
bit
Fully
in
better.
translation.
retracted. That's
It's all right.
that's on me for jumping all
Yeah.
over
Yeah,
you.
no, it's all right.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I get it.
Good job on the homework.
Yeah,
Well
thanks.
done. Well done.
You, not only did you win Gold World Juniors, but you won the Brick Invitational, right? And that's something
Yeah.
that I don't know that a lot of our fans are really going to know what that is. That's a really big tournament, obviously, for Canada, and you get some teams from North America, from the United States who go and play in that, but it's primarily
Yeah.
Canadian teams. So can you explain
there.
to people listening and watching what is the Brick Tournament? How important is that for youth hockey?
So they say it's sort of the biggest tournament for 10-year-olds. It's a spring hockey tournament. So you kind of assemble teams that way. I'd probably say I know there's an Alberta team, a BC team, Ontario. There's two Ontario teams. Minnesota has a team, Detroit, Connecticut, Boston, and maybe one more American team. But it's in the West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton, Alberta, and they have a big rink kind of in the center of the mall. And that's where they hold the tournament. And it's sort of famous, I guess you could say, in Canada. It's very, very well known. And it's a massive tournament that's held every summer.
And isn't it like it's obviously it's in the mall, but isn't like there's like 3 levels and people are kind of all around watching this tournament?
Yeah, so there's 2 levels and it's kind of open to the rink. I think they have like a smaller scoreboard that hangs in the middle now. But it's kind of just like open and it's a full glass ceiling. So all the sunlight comes in. It's pretty cool.
My invite for Team Minnesota must have got lost in the mail.
Yeah, definitely.
When I was 10, I get to play
Yeah.
in that one. They maybe had 1 or 2 better players in Minnesota than me to pick at the time. But, hey, I apparently haven't
and
forgotten
then-
about that invite lost in the mail. It
Yeah.
still sits.
Haunts you to this
Yeah,
day.
that haunts me to this day.
Yeah.
So then that tournament also led into at the end of the tournament, you do a jersey swap. So throughout the tournament, players from other teams will say, "Hey, like, can we swap jerseys?" Whatever. And I think it was like one of the last few days, and there was a kid who played on Minnesota. His name was Carson Bantle. I believe he plays university at Wisconsin, maybe hockey. And him and I traded, and he was on Minnesota, obviously, so I got a Minnesota jersey.
There you go.
Small world.
I feel like I
Which
know
is-
that name from somewhere. I did some
Pretty crazy.
state hockey, not state tournament, but like some state of hockey showcase game broadcast years and years ago, and I feel like he was on one of those teams. That name doesn't totally come out of the woodwork for me.
I mean, that's a tournament too where I mean I hear guys talk about it all the time, and it's big name.
Oh yeah,
a lot of big names
If
have come
if
through
this
and played in that
Carson
tournament.
Bantle was
Yeah.
playing in this tournament, he was a very good Minnesota player.
I mean, you
There's
say
no
it's for
question.
10-year-olds, but it's like this is as legit as it comes when you talk youth hockey and some
Well,
of the top
and
youth hockey
I
in the
can speak
country.
on Minnesota like this. I would imagine it's the same in Canada, Ryan. There's probably a pretty good crop of people your age group that you kind of know who the big players are going to be even when they're 8, 9, 10 years old. I remember seeing Nick Leddy play because he was my age in Minnesota as a squirt. I vividly remember the shift just going, well, this guy's going to play in the NHL. I mean, my goodness. And he was 9 years old. I would imagine there's guys that come out of the woodwork later and develop later, but I'd imagine it's probably how it is in Canada too, Ryan.
Definitely, yes. Yeah. You're going to tell who's going to be separated from the middle of the pack or the higher end of the pack But yeah, I mean, that tournament is sort of for that. And I think that's why Ontario brings two teams because
Yeah,
they can't
That makes sense.
differentiate.
That makes sense.
But just the way they are spring tournaments, they're kind of thrown together by the organizations themselves. So they can pick players from anywhere they want.
Speaking of Ontario and also speaking of Edmonton, the provinces themselves, let's talk OHL, WHL. Within the Minnesota Wild framework, and fans later on this episode, we got a short interview with Hunter Haight, who's an OHL alum, talking about this rivalry. And Ryan, you have been immersed mainly in WHL alumni within the Minnesota Wild organization. For whatever reason, that's where Minnesota in the Bill Guerin era has drafted primarily out of between the WHL and the OHL. What are the conversations? What are the argument points that typically come up? Because I know it comes up. And I know it comes up even with the older players that played a lot longer ago in the OHL or the WHL than you. But when you're in these arguments, when you're in these heated discussions about why the OHL is better than the WHL, what are some of the points you make?
You can't really argue travel because the WHL takes the icing on that one. I guess that's a speaking point for the OHL. But I mean, it's honestly fairly similar. I mean, different age groups or different age groupings, you know, were better in the OHL. Some were better in the WHL. You know, it depends on the year. It depends on who's there. You know, and who sort of has better players coming up. I think the three leagues are there to cater to all, you know, Central Ontario, the West, and then Quebec, obviously. I think it's just there to, you know, produce players and develop players, and hopefully get them higher up in hockey.
Everyone has a different path to the NHL, Ryan, and you're going into your fourth season. What are the next steps for you? What are the things you've keyed in on? And how do you see yourself, where do you see yourself fitting in at the NHL level when you hopefully get there someday?
I mean, I hope to, you know, play, I guess, any role up there. I mean, obviously, it'd be a dream to play in the league to begin with. But I think it's going to still take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of compete, a lot of battle, a lot of mental battle as well, throughout the rest of the summer and then going into training camp. But I think it's doable. You know, I think I have it in me. I think I just have to work super hard on my craft and sort of see where that takes me.
Ready to close it out with a little rapid fire session?
Yeah, I just got one more for him, and then let's go rapid fire. My final question, Ryan. My best dressed day in Iowa Wild history, you had a big hand on. It was far and away the most expensively I was ever dressed in my life. And it happened because I accidentally left at home a very important part of wearing a suit, a belt, of which I will let Ryan take over from there. How that day played out when you bailed me out on a day where my pants weren't staying up.
If I'm not wrong, I don't believe it was you, but who needed a tie this year?
Oh, that was Alec. So
Was
you've
that
you've
That happened a couple
Okay.
times.
you've
Yeah.
helped you've
Yeah.
helped out twice for the communications team.
I had to give
So-
him socks once. Yeah.
I
So
would
he
share
asked me
those.
for a tie once because I was the only one with a black tie. But the one Ben's referring to, I remember it's kind of just, you know, warming up before the game sort of thing. I was back in the dressing room and Ben comes up to me and I was like, this is kind of odd. You
Not
know,
a
why is
time
Ben
I'm
coming to talk
typically
to me?
coming up to him. Yes.
And he just kindly asked me, he said, do you have a black belt? And I said, I got a belt. Yeah. I said, like, I don't know if you're gonna not like it, but I didn't know if you were gonna be okay with it or whatnot. So I reach up, I open it up, and I give it to him, and he kind of just looks at me and is like, "I don't want to wear this, but I'm gonna have to," sort of thing, because it was your last resort. And it kind of just went from there. I mean, I didn't really care, or you know, I knew you weren't going anywhere with it, so I mean, gosh, if you needed help, I was there to help you.
What kind of belt was it?
Yeah, this is the part of the story where I can take it over. I put this belt. I had no idea. I just my belts are just.
I'm
you get them
picturing
at a store.
it's like I don't want to wear it. I'm picturing some, and I know you didn't wear. A
Oh
belt.
no,
like,
nothing
a
egregious.
big with like a
No.
belt buckle. It says ROR on it or something.
I still
like,
to this day I'm not even sure I know how to pronounce the brand it is. But is it Hermès? Is that how you say it?
Yeah. Hermes,
I think I wanted to call it
Hermes,
Hermes
I
is
don't know.
what I call it. So I put this belt on and proceed to walk past a couple of players, and I forget who it was, but like 2 or 3 guys are like, "Oh, you're dripping today, BG," and I'm like, I don't even know what dripping means, and I'm just like, "Oh, you like my suit? Great," and they're like, "No, the belt," and so it's a beautiful, nice designer belt, and I had no clue that it was as nice of a belt as it was. And if I remember correctly, I think I even told the camera to back off just a little bit on the broadcast that night so we could get get the Hermès belt in there. I'll never forget that. I think even we were in Vegas last year and there was an Hermès shop and I took a picture of it and sent it to Ryan. I'll never forget that. The fact, one, that you bailed me out, but 2, that I will never wear a belt that's that nice again in my life. I know I won't. I can't pull that off. Like, Rourke's got great style.
Sounds like you did though that day.
Well, I don't know. I felt uncomfortable wearing it. And I was like,
You
don't
had
spill
to.
anything on it. Don't ruin this belt. But Rourke's got great style. He frequently has the great loafer game, the higher cut pants that I will never try because I think I would look foolish like that. But he pulls it off. He's a well-dressed guy on game day and clearly finishes that with a very nice designer belt too, that he's not afraid to give to people either. So kudos to you, Ryan. I had to get that story in before we got to
Ben.
rapid fire.
What a guy.
I like that. No, that's good.
All right, we're going to do a little rapid fire here. I got a couple questions. They're kind of superlative-like questions, and I guess let's set the rules here. Do we want it to be just guys off of this past year's team or in his just time in general?
Let's go time in Iowa Wild history. He's got plenty of it. He's one of the most seasoned guys. Yeah,
your time with the Iowa Wild. Okay, first one. First person that comes to mind, and if you got any little quips in there, feel free. Most likely to be late for their own birthday party.
Jesper.
Most likely to be mistaken for a celebrity.
Damon. Muncie.
Most likely to clap when the plane lands.
Miller.
Most likely to go on a TV show looking for love.
Oh, Sammy Walker.
Most likely to be a low-key conspiracy theorist.
Sammy Walker.
Most likely to become a coach once their career is over.
Brandon Miller.
Best storyteller.
Kale Cassie.
All right, some good answers there.
Those were good answers. Oh, I was just thinking about Sammy Walker on a love interest show with his guitar. I can see it. It's a great call.
Yeah.
I can
Serenading,
totally see it.
singing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can totally see it. That's a great call. Ryan, this has been a real blast. I knew it would be. Thanks for giving us some time today. Cannot wait to see you back at Minnesota training camp when the time comes. In the meantime, enjoy the cottage. Enjoy your dogs and enjoy your time away because we all know it'll be here before we know it. Thanks, pal.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Ryan O'Rourke, always a pleasure. We were talking about this before we hit record on that episode or this episode. I think him and Damon Hunt, as far as my tenure here, the first original members, guys that broke into pro hockey with me. Otherwise, I don't think I'm forgetting anyone. All new faces otherwise now coming up on it'll be 5 seasons ago. This is my 5th season with Iowa. So, and Damon wasn't here much of that year. Mm-hmm. So Ryan really is kind of the one guy that every story I have, he's involved in it in some way, shape, or form. And it's crazy, especially in the American League, how quickly those rosters can change. And a guy that's been a big part of the group for the last 4 years.
and who's going to be a big part of the group
Yeah.
this year. You know, having a guy who's been here for 4 years and still being like he's still a young guy, but he's been here for a bit, so he's going to take on a leadership role and you know, have a big impact for us this year. He's going to be a piece who we're going to need big things out of him if we're going to go places this year.
And probably my favorite part was Ryan's response to your question. I think that was the highlight of the journey for me so far. But you did nothing wrong in your homework.
Nope.
It was
Nope.
it was
My
strictly
delivery was
word.
maybe
It was
bad.
word choice.
Well,
it was word choice.
Listen, it can be word choice, but that's how I saw the story. It was that he declined the call.
That's
that's how I asked
That
about
sounds
it.
like a classic, like, attention-grabbing headline,
Yeah.
right? And then you read it, you're like, okay, he didn't decline the
Yeah.
calls. Did you read the story? Or did you just see the headline and then boom, go?
No, I read the story. I read it and I asked the question how I understood it and whatever, clickbait. Go watch the podcast, guys.
Yes, please do. One OHLer, Sioux Greyhounds, to another OHLer. Saginaw Spirit won a Memorial Cup, by the way, last season with the Spirit. Hunter Haight, who is someone that the Minnesota Wild drafted early. We could very well see him in Iowa this year. His goal, as every rookie is to make the Minnesota Wild, and it should be. But we could see him. Had the opportunity to catch up with Hunter at development camp and had a shorter chat. Didn't feel like it was a full episode-worthy interview. You weren't able to make it, so we didn't quite get the same banter back and forth, but did not want to leave it out. It was a good chat with Hunter, and will help fans get to know him a little bit better. Any thoughts on Hunter Haight that you have? I know you dive into more of the players once we get an actual roster at some point, but he's someone that has had a marvelous junior career. Every time I've seen him play it, whether it's development camp or the Tom Curver's prospect showcase, I think he's been one of the best players on the ice. I'm really excited to see him. Tremendously skilled, smaller side, yes, and had a fantastic Memorial Cup, had a fantastic OHL playoffs on the way to a championship, and we talk about that and more, but he's someone that I think fans should be really excited about. Temper your expectations. Rookies don't always come in and light it up right away, but he's got all the tools to, I think, be a really good pro.
Yeah, well, I'm like you said, I don't see a lot of these guys till they're here. My view on Hunter Haight is what every Minnesota Wild fan's view is right now, just having seen from a distance and what people say about him, and it is exciting because everything he's played in so far, he's kind of lit it up. And I know the pro game is different, but I'm excited to see him come in here. Hopefully he's here. I mean, for our sake, I'd love to see him here, but he's someone who I think is, I wouldn't say he's pegged, but a lot of people are thinking he's got a really good chance to make that team out of camp. So who knows what'll happen. Time will tell, but I'm excited to see him put on a Wild sweater, whether it's Iowa or Minnesota this coming season.
And a great name, too. I tell you what, I've had to do it on some prospect showcase broadcasts before. Going to need some training, whether it's me or Joe O'Donnell someday, between Riley Haight and Hunter Haight. If those two ever play in the same line together,
Tough.
As Joe loves to say, Godspeed, Joe, and Godspeed to me, because that could be a real mouthful. But nonetheless, a good chat with Hunter Haight. And now a bonus interview on Riding the Bus. Here is Memorial Cup champion Hunter Haight. On to period 2, Ben Gislason riding solo here at development camp in St. Paul. We're at the Wild on 7th studios inside Tria Rink here in St. Paul. Let's see, day 3 of development camp and one of the Minnesota Wild's second-round draft picks. And a guy that we could very well see in Iowa this coming season. Hunter Haight is here with us. Hunter, thanks for parking some time for me today. And also, thank you for waiting. I didn't mean to make you wait so long, but we're banking a bunch of interviews while we're up here in Minnie. Development camp for you, third camp, right? Third camp for you. What's year 3 been like compared to year 2 and year 1, now that you're one of the older, wily veterans of development camp here this year?
Yeah, it's been awesome. First camp was, a bit of a whirlwind for all of us that were just drafted, and then being here for a third time, it's great. Like, everyone, the chefs, all of the staff, and it's really just such a great time. And then, I guess I'm getting old in terms of development camps, but seeing all the new faces, all the new guys, all the friendships that are built, it's been really good, and it's been a good couple days on the ice too.
So, Riding the Bus, the name of our podcast, we want fans to feel like they're sitting on the bus next to you. Put people on the bus next to you, on the Saginaw Spirit bus where you played junior hockey this past year. What's life like on the Spirit bus, and what is Hunter Haight up to on a given night when you guys are traveling somewhere for OHL play?
Yeah, so we have a pit. That's where 2 seats face backwards, and then there's 2 seats that face forwards with a table in between, and the guys like to play cards. Blackjack is probably the go-to. And then other than that, I was probably laying down and watching a movie on Netflix or something.
How does one earn their way into the pit? Because you can't just be any old player that goes and sits back there. There's a pecking order, I would imagine, in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, not really. Anyone who wanted to play could play, but I was lucky enough to have that seat. I was the one facing backward, and Josh Bloom, he was the one behind me, so yeah.
As we stay on the development camp topic, you brought up the chefs, getting to know the chefs. One of the chefs, wonderful chefs, the food up here is just, it's incredible. It's literally what I look forward to most coming up here every summer. You guys had a nutrition smoothie challenge a couple of days ago. You go through a nutrition meeting. I think 2 years ago, I was actually one of the taste testers in the protein ball taste testing. I would have liked to have been a taste tester for the smoothies. The protein balls didn't go so well. The smoothies looked pretty good yesterday. How did your team's smoothie creation go? What was the name of the smoothie? What did you guys put in it? That's one of the really fun, unique things that I'm sure people don't know that you guys do every year at development camp, is you create some kind of a meal or a protein option of some kind.
Yeah, well, we definitely didn't win the contest. I don't know if the taste was too great. The looks on the judges' faces, they weren't very happy with it, but it was really fun just to, be there with your group, and you're trying to, follow the rules of what you're supposed to make. We had an immunity. That's what our shake was supposed to be. And so you're just trying to put healthy stuff in there, and the name of it was, what was it? Something doctor, health doctor or something. I don't know, but it was overall, it was fun, good experience, and it was funny to watch the judges not like our smoothie. So.
Who presented it for your group?
Kyle Masters.
Okay, that makes the fans know him well. Tonight, you guys have some golf going on. How's the golf game been going this summer? I'd imagine, this is probably one of the more nerve-wracking rounds guys might play, because I'm sure you're used to playing with your buddies or people you're comfortable with, and now you've got your future teammates with you. You're going to have Minnesota Wild staff are going to be there. How's your golf game? Is it pretty dialed in for the golf round that's ahead of you tonight, or are you a little nervous?
I don't know. I'm pretty new to golf. I've been golfing since I was a kid, but really just like the past year and a bit, I've actually, enjoyed going and really love playing the game now, and got some new clubs, but they're at home, so we'll be using rentals. So
you have an excuse. That's big.
We'll see how that goes.
That's big to have an excuse at an event like this.
Everybody has that same problem tonight, so
levels the playing field.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and probably a lot of bad shots, a couple good ones.
At these camps, guys inevitably find their way into, and not that it's a cliquey event, but you find your way into groups of guys, whether you played against them, you played with them, guys you've had experience with their last 2 years coming to development camp. Who are maybe the pot of guys you think you've spent the most time around, maybe not only this year, but over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, in previous years, there weren't too many OHL guys around, so I kind of gravitated towards the WHL guys in like Caedan Bankier, Carson Lambos, and Kyle Masters. They've been my go-to, and then obviously I had Sammy Walker as my roommate for main camp. Sorry, and he was awesome. He's an incredible guy, just a great dude, and yeah. But this year it's different because there's some OHL guys that are here too. So I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between the WHL guys and the OHL guys, and each group's getting mad at me when I'm not around, not picking to go hang out with them. So
I know that there is an ongoing debate between the Ontario Hockey League and the Western Hockey League about which is the better league, and which place sends more NHLers, and which team wins more Memorial Cups. We're going to get to you winning the Memorial Cup this year, but what are some of the conversations? What are some of the arguments? Because I know that you've had these arguments with Caedan Bankier, with Carson Lambos, because to your point, with the exception of this year, the Minnesota Wild prospect cupboard is pretty laden with WHL players. There's not a lot of O guys.
Yeah. The biggest one, we go through it every year between Caedan Bankier and me. It comes down to travel. That's what they're always talking about. They're like, oh, the OHL is such an easy league. Like your furthest trip's 8 hours. That's our shortest trip. And they do have some long bus rides, and it's a lot of travel. They're always asking me to pull up the map of the WHL, and when you look at it and compare the two, it's kind of crazy how far they are traveling throughout that season, and they're playing the same number of games as us and whatever. But in Saginaw, our closest trip was like 40 minutes, and it was to Flint, and it's kind of a rivalry. And I was showing Banks how close we are on the map, and he's like, "That's an absolute joke." So. Yeah, that one always comes up.
Before we get to your time this past season, the championship year with Saginaw, to finish the development camp portion of this chat, I wanted to ask you, one-on-one versus Brad Bombardier, Cody McLeod, or we'll throw Matt Hendricks in there, even though he's now graduated on to be the GM of Iowa. He's no longer the development coaches, but the Devo staff, and what a great group those three are. Who would you least want to go one-on-one against of those three NHL players?
That's a good question. I want to say Hendricks. Yeah, I think I at least want to go against him. I mean, Bomber, he's not that intimidating anymore. So, no, they're all really great guys, and I think that's something that I might take you up on. Maybe I have to do a one-on-one.
I like it. Okay, if Joey will watch this, my co-host on this show, and he's always got his brain spinning about potential marketing ideas, so we might make this happen at some point. Moving backwards, as we move forwards with you, getting to do something that all Canadian kids dream of, not only playing in the Memorial Cup, but winning and hoisting the Memorial Cup. Was that something in your world that you had dreamt of? Was it just a part of the journey, or was it really a mountaintop moment that as a kid you were in the basement playing for the Memorial Cup? What was that like, being a part of a Memorial Cup championship team? Because not many get to do it.
Yeah, for me, like growing up I'm from Strathroy, Ontario. It's a small town just outside of London. The London Knights is the pinnacle of junior hockey for the OHL and CHL, and that's where I grew up. And so I'd go see games there, or whether it be London or Sarnia. So it was always a dream of mine to play in the OHL and to get to a championship within the league. And the opportunity to have the Memorial Cup this year is incredible. So yeah.
Was there you were a big part of that success, 13 points throughout the playoffs, 17 games. I mean, you weren't just sitting there in the passenger seat. You were helping drive the Spirit team to win it. Was there a game, a moment where you went, man, I had a big impact in this win or in this play or in this 60-minute performance? Do you think back on as maybe the defining moment for Hunter Haight in that stretch?
I mean, everything falls down to team for me. So, I mean, the group that we had was incredible. The depth that we had from top of the lineup down to the bottom, it was dominant. We fell short in the playoffs there, but I mean, I had a great series against London, and it was pretty cool to do against my hometown team, which was pretty special for me. But at the end of the day, all the credit has to come down to coaching and my teammates doing their job so I could do mine.
We were joking before, we're sitting here in this beautiful studio, the lights, the camera, the microphones. It only gets more and more loud the further you go in your career. But there had to be a pretty decent amount of media exposure, buzz, interviews, things going on during the Memorial Cup. What was it like handling that as just a young teenage kid for probably, I'd imagine, the first time really having that much exposure and that much buzz around you?
Yeah, it was pretty cool for all of us. It's the first time that TSN is all over, and you're running to go do this interview or that, or different media people are calling on you for an interview depending on the game, and there's always players that were picked for every single game throughout that Mem Cup experience. So it was really cool for us, and it's a big part of pro hockey and hockey in general is the media aspect of it. So it's good experience for us.
Has anyone given you tips or anything? Have you had any, whether it's previous coaches that have played pro, that have dealt with the camera, have you got any tips about how to handle it?
try to take your time, be polite, and yeah, think before you speak.
As a working member of the media, all great advice. I confirm those as great advice bits that you've gotten. To finish up here, want to talk about expectations. Moving forward now, stepping into pro hockey, a second-round draft pick, there are expectations that come with that. But outside of the noise, what other people think, what do you think? What are your expectations for year one pro for you?
I mean, my end goal is to make the National Hockey League and do everything that I can to make the Minnesota Wild first and foremost. And I'm going to do everything I can throughout this summer to, try to obtain that goal. Yeah.
Gunning for that, gunning for the NHL. It may mean you have to take at least a small tour of duty through the American Hockey League and the Iowa Wild. It really, at this point, it doesn't matter where you're drafted. Most guys at least play one game somewhere or another. You look at Matt Boldy, you look at Marco Rossi. Could be the same for you, could not be, depending on how you do in camp in the summer. But what do you know about Des Moines? Do you know anything about Iowa? And if the answer is no, that's okay. I've heard that before, and no one at home will be offended by that.
I don't know anything about Des Moines. All I know is it's like 3.5 hours from here or something like that. So.
Well, that's more than most know. So you're on top of that. It's amazing some of the glazed expressions I've gotten at times. But if you do get to see it, you will enjoy it there. It's a wonderful place. To finish, players that you model your game after, who are they?
That's a tough question. Every time I'm asked this, I kind of don't really have anyone specifically that I watch or I try to model like my game after. Really, my idol growing up was Travis Konechny, and I got to watch him go through his OHL process and make the NHL, and I think he was a big reason why I fell in love with the game. And I would say he's a super hardworking guy, and he's one of the big names on Philadelphia there. So he's probably one of my go-tos for that. And then Bo Horvat too. I met him when I was really young, and he played for the same minor hockey association as I did. And he's been a big role model, and he's a leader within the league when he was in Vancouver, and even still where he is now. But probably those two.
What should fans know about you as a non-hockey player, if they want to know about Hunter Haight?
I enjoy fishing. I enjoy time up at the cottage with my family, spending quality time on the lake with them, and golf, I guess. I'm getting into it. I'll get better.
What's the biggest fish you caught this summer?
I haven't gotten a chance to go yet. I'm heading up after camp here. So
very good. Well, maybe look forward to seeing some pictures at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Hunter, thanks so much for doing this. It's been a real treat. Looking forward to officially bringing you into the Wild organization here this fall, and seeing that bright smile on a Wild jersey. It'll be great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Period 3. We're back. Great interview with Ben and Hunter Haight.
Hey, thanks.
Your favorite? This might be maybe your favorite name. You think?
That's a good
up
question.
There?
I may need more time to think about. It's definitely up there. I mean,
you're a big alliteration.
Sadly,
guy,
the little
right?
ball. I am a big alliteration guy.
I
love a great alliteration. Sadly, the nickname "Little Ball of Hate," Brian Giunta took that one, so you can't replenish that one. Also, I've yet to see if Hunter will really play with that same hateful style that Brian Giunta once played with, but certainly small enough to fit into the Brian Giunta role, who had just an incredible career as a small guy in a very big sport of hockey at the time.
BC Eagle.
Yes, a hard time to be small when Brian Giunta played. But, yeah, a great name, and certainly someone that I think I'll be excited to see what his personality is like. You didn't really get to see it there. It's our first interaction together. It's amazing when you do an interview with Ryan O'Rourke, you can tell the comfortability. Just, again, Ryan and I have been around each other for 4 years. Mm-hmm. He's been around you for 3 years. When you have somebody that you've really only talked to once or twice in development camp,
it's tough.
Maybe helping them get their per diem at camp one day.
Yeah.
It's a lot different. But still a good introduction, I think, for Hunter into our fan base, and we'll look forward to hopefully seeing a little more from him, not only on the ice but off it, once the season kicks off.
Beautiful. Well, we got period 3, as always, presented by the Wildwear Shop. Wildwear.com is the official online store of your Iowa Wild, with the largest selection of Iowa Wild fan gear, one-of-a-kind apparel, and exclusive specialty merchandise. There's always something new at Wildwear.com. Don't miss out. Head to the website now and start shopping. I got a sneak peek at some new hats, specifically one that is State Fair limited edition. Let me tell you, this thing is sweet. I don't want to give away too much, but we got
Is there a corn dog on it? We had a corn dog hat last year, didn't we?
Corn dog was on the T-shirt last year.
Yeah.
This hat is, I will say, it is agriculture related.
Well, that really doesn't help a whole lot because
But
there's
it's
so much that Iowa is known for agriculture.
Yeah, but it is so
agriculturally.
You look
There
at
we
this
go.
hat, and it's like it just screams State Fair. So
Sweet.
I already told Kelsey that I may have to wear it for
Lubing the deals. Lubing the deals.
when I defend my title, but we'll get there. Make sure you stop by. We're gonna have a lot of cool stuff at the State Fair, so check that out. Bus line, we're bringing it back this week. We got some new voicemails. We're only gonna do one this week, kind of saving them in the hopper. But as a reminder, the bus line 515-318-7863. Give Ben and I a call. Let's chat.
We love
Let's
hearing
talk.
from you.
We want to hear. Ask us your questions. Ben will answer life advice if you want to. So we will answer whatever we can for you guys. But yeah, send it along. We've got one here. We've got our first repeat caller coming back to us here. Yeah,
really?
So here we go. I'm just gonna play it, and we'll let it ride.
Benny G and Joey G, this is Johnny from the East Village. Answered one of my questions 2 weeks ago, I believe, and I just got another one for you. Not really a hockey question, more of an ethics question. Would you steal a loaf of bread to feed your family? I've been seeing a lot of these, fitness stores. They sell fitness workout equipment. Unethical or ethical, you go into these fitness stores, test out the equipment, and that's where you get your workout. You avoid membership dues and gym fees and smelly people that, work out in gyms next to you. You just kind of have your own personal gym in that resale store of equipment. Unethical or ethical, and if you think it's unethical, how long do you think I could get away with working out there until somebody says, hey, we're not a gym. You can't work out here. Thanks, guys. Johnny from East Village.
Sounds like any East Village gyms need to be on the lookout for Johnny.
No, not the gyms. Like I think it's more.
Or the work. Yeah,
it's more like, hey,
the workout.
I'm gonna go to Shields and get my pump in with the stuff they have on display.
Yes, that's what I meant. It sounds like any fitness sales establishments in the East Village got to keep their eyes peeled.
Free memberships.
Yeah. Well, to me, the steal a loaf of bread to feed your family thing is a lot harder of an answer. This one seems a little straightforward. No, you can't go into a fitness store and utilize their equipment to work out. It's not your equipment. You're not paying to use it. So I think I can answer that one pretty quickly. I'm going to go unethical.
Yeah, it's unethical, and I don't think you could get away with it for very long either. Like if I'm working at Shields, for example, or Dick's Sporting Goods, right, and I'm working in the fitness section, and every day I see this same guy come in who just happens to be in full workout gear, just like
he's got the headphones
testing
on,
things out, like
towel.
I'd be onto that right away, and you might be able to get away with it for So I think 1 day you could easily get away with it. 2 days, kind of a coincidence. Maybe he's just coming back to check things out.
Do you think a day you'd be able to get? Because if someone was there for 45 minutes trying all the different equipment, wouldn't someone go over and just be like, "Hey, pal"?
See, you would think so, but I think people are just they don't want a confrontation initially. The second time you'd have to be smart about it, because I think the second time you get away, he's come back to just again confirm whether or not he wants this equipment. A third day, no chance.
But could you?
No chance.
Could you, if you really thought about this? I'm gonna go Monday 1 week. I'm gonna go if you tried to figure out who's working on what days, so they didn't recognize you.
So you're just gonna go 1 day a week though?
If you're really trying to run this gamut, run its course, because you couldn't just go if you're gonna let's say. Well, you said you're in the gym every day at one point on our podcast.
You could drag it out as long as you wanted to. I mean, in theory, you can't. It's going to be very hard for you to get away with 45 minutes, doing it in 45 minutes. You could go and
you'd want to superset a lot.
You'd want dumbbells for a bit, and then just be like, all right, I'm gonna go check out the Nike section, just see what they got for clothes, and then come back, and it's I'm gonna do some squats and see how I feel about it, and then I'm gonna go check out some sneakers, and then come back. You'd have to.
You could
be
go
smart.
do some of your non-weight stuff in different aisles.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing just squats without weight, or if you do some push-ups, or maybe you go find an unused, a very unfrequented part of the store. You
Why
can do
is
some.
this guy doing
You
lunges?
can do some lunges.
Why is this guy doing lunges looking for baseball gloves? What's happening here?
That is far and away the most creative question we've received so far.
I like hypotheticals. Send us some hypotheticals.
Yeah,
more of them.
I'm down for
Those
more
are good.
hypotheticals.
Yeah.
But dive in more, because to me the ethical part of that's an unethical stamped easy right away. But thank you for the call, Johnny from East Village. And to your point, Shields, any other fitness providers, be vigilant, because this guy is on the lookout to take advantage of. And we may have just given him some ideas. So we're not involved in this if this ends up happening. We're not suggesting Johnny does this.
We're telling you it's not going to work.
We don't want to be implicated in any kind of events here that could play out from Johnny in East Village.
Well, thanks. That's the bus line, 515-318-7863. We'll be on the lookout for our next set of questions, whatever it may be. We'll see what we get. Before we wrap, just again recapping upcoming events. The block party was awesome.
Oh, sure
for everyone
was.
who came out. Great time. Definitely improved over last year's as we continue to grow events year over year. This one was definitely trending in the right direction. A lot of activities, a lot of things to do. Great weather. Everybody seemed to have a good time. So shout out to everybody who was there. Shout out to Home Solutions of Iowa for sponsoring, and the Science Center of Iowa for hosting us again. That was great. But coming up, again, I mentioned it on the last episode, but Wild on the Green, presented by Wheatley Vodka, is on October 7th. So we'll have that coming up. Early bird registration still open. So if you want to sign up as a group with a foursome, do that. If you want to sign up as an individual, you can do that as well. Golf with the Iowa Wild players. Get a gift. Get lunch. We've got a silent auction, all kinds of good stuff. I'm trying to remember our script from our videos last year of all the things that we had to talk about, and make sure we hit on our Happy Gilmore videos.
I was going to say, what's our promo video this year? Hard to outdo what happened last year.
Very hard to outdo. A lot of Happy Gilmore scenes we can do. I have not been told
just bring it back.
I haven't been told that we need to film anything yet, so I'm kind of waiting for that nod. But Wild on the Green's coming up. But before that, one that we haven't really talked about yet is our Wild on Wheels tour, presented by Quickstar. It's basically a summer caravan that's going to go around the state. We're not just sticking to the metro. We're starting to expand a little bit more. And our whole goal is to celebrate hockey and bring the Wild brand outside of the metro area and really take over the state. That's what we're hoping for. So 4 stops coming up this summer, and hoping to do another 4 next summer, and so on and so forth after that. So the 4 locations, the first one is going to be on Sunday, July 28th at Brenton Skating Plaza. We're going to have street hockey. We'll have all kinds of tables and food trucks, and there's going to be a dunk tank that I volunteered both of us to be in.
First I've learned of this.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of cool, not at the same time, but like I'll go first and then you do it, and then maybe that takes us to the end of the day. But Brenton Skating Plaza.
Only if I can throw at you while you're in the dunk tank, but you can't throw at me.
I volunteered to sit in the dunk tank. Anybody can throw at the dunk tank. You can try to dunk me. I'm going to make fun of you the whole time, though, so prepare yourself. So Brenton Skating Plaza on the 28th of July. That'll be the first one. Then we're going to go out to Central College in Pella on August 22nd. So that'll be a nice little fun. I actually found out the other day that there's going to be a petting zoo at this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, yep. I saw Abby's face just lit up behind the camera. She's excited. So petting zoo, again, food trucks, lots of carnival games and activities and whatnot. We'll be at that one. On September 6th will be our 3rd visit. We're going to Waterloo Young Arena, where the Waterloo Blackhawks play. They have a preseason game that day, so we are going to be the pregame festivities before their preseason game. So we're going to check that out, have a good time there with the Blackhawks and everybody, so we appreciate their hospitality. And then our last visit, we're heading out to Coralville, Extreme Arena, and hanging out with the Heartlanders on September 12th. So right before NHL training camp's about to kick off. Our training camp will be about a month after that. We'll be starting to talk preseason hockey and the regular season getting started. Tickets will be on sale. That'll be a lot of fun. I know the Heartlanders are really excited about having us out there too. And again, food trucks, games, activities, street hockey at all 4 of these stops. So we're really excited about it. a lot of teams do these summer street hockey series, festivals, caravans. So we're excited to finally do that and start hitting some different places. And then that'll put a bow on Wild on Wheels, and we'll start taking suggestions for where we should go next summer. So keep an eye out for that. But if you're in the area of any of those locations, definitely come on out. If you're in the area of multiple of those locations, come on out. It's a free event, open to anybody who wants to be there. We got an RSVP form that's out there just so we can get an idea on how many people to expect. But bring your friends, bring your family, whoever you want. Come on out, enjoy a nice day, nice afternoon with the Wild.
Have you been to Extreme Arena yet?
Oh, yeah, a couple times.
I wasn't sure if you'd been out there.
When I first came out here, we had preseason games out there, and I went.
I wasn't sure if you came to the preseason games.
I went to a game last year.
Yeah.
And took things in a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful,
fabulous
beautiful
building.
arena.
Yeah, it couldn't have picked it better. Really, Extreme Arena, Young Arena. There are some outstanding rinks in Iowa. Obviously, to me, the spectacle is behind us here, Wells Fargo Arena.
Yeah.
But, I mean, between Young Arena, the stable in Cedar Rapids is a great building. I love Mystique Ice Center in Dubuque. That's a great building, too. Like, there's some really great classic feeling USHL barns. And then, of course, Extreme Arena is sparkling and brand new and perfect for what that ECHL franchise is. So it'll be great that hopefully we'll get some fans maybe that make the trek that want to go see some of these buildings. Mm-hmm. I can't recommend Young Arena enough.
We've got really good.
The game there is awesome. It's an awesome place to see a hockey game.
Really good responses so far in terms of like how many people are saying that they're going to be there. So we're really excited about it.
That's outstanding. Good stuff. Good to have you back. Anything else we got to touch on, or should we put a pin in this one?
I think we put a pin in it.
Yeah. We should also shout out Abby Kimball, her first time behind the camera on the podcast. Welcome into the family as she gives us a fist bump from behind the camera. Thanks to Abby Kimball. Great to have you with us and now helping produce and edit these shows. Joey, thank you very much. Thanks as well to Jeremy Core and Executive Podcasting Solutions, and to all of you for jumping on board. And don't forget Ryan O'Rourke and Hunter Haight as well. Plenty more shows coming up this off-season. We're looking forward to the next one already. This has been episode 37 of Ridin the Bus, the official Iowa Wild podcast. And as always, 2 honks for the win.